Welcome everybody to TPS's Back to School webinar. I hope everyone is out there. We have 388 registered participants, including, actually not including the panelists. Panelists are myself, Pete Tsimikalis. I'll be acting as moderator. My mother's literally stapled next to me. Her name's Fouli Tsimikalis. She's right here. She'll join us in the question and answer period. Steve Tsimikalis, the principal and co-founder with my mom, he will be leading us at the start. He's going to let us know all about the back to school plan, and he'll also, of course, be joining us for the question and answer period. So Dad, take it away.
I'd like to welcome everyone, returning parents, new parents, staff, and to any students that might be tuning in to Toronto Prep School's webinar entitled TPS's Return to School Plan. I hope everyone is doing well, staying safe, and making the most of this unusual summer. The purpose of this webinar is to address for parents, students, and teachers what has become the discussion question of our time. What will school reopening look like, or should it look like, for this coming September? To further this discussion, we'd like to share a plan for reopening Toronto Prep School in September, and in so doing, provide you with an opportunity to ask questions and garner further insight and clarification for at least what the first semester, September to January, will likely look like. But before we venture down that road, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank all our returning parents, students, and staff for the exceptional effort you all put forth to make the second half of the past semester the success that it was. Working together, we were able to continue to provide meaningful synchronous instruction from the first day after March break until the end of the school year. The ability for our students to see their teachers and peers daily and to engage in a structured learning routine was most important for their mental well-being and their academic progress during this stressful time. Although synchronous online learning cannot replace the dynamic atmosphere of the classroom, our collective efforts enabled our students to master the core expectations of the various courses and engage in lively discussions on a daily basis. The success of our students was due to the collaborative partnership between the school and home environment. It is this very partnership and the effort that I will be asking each and every one of you, students, parents, and staff, to continue this coming year. But what will the day-to-day look like? No matter what plan is implemented, there is no back to normal for the foreseeable future, vaccine or no vaccine. There's also no perfect school reopening that can 100% ensure the safety and well-being of all our students, teachers, and families. There's no such thing as a no-risk environment. As I noted in the document, there will most likely be transmissions if schools reopen for in-school instruction. However, keeping students at home also comes with its own particular set of costs to all involved parties, as pointed out by various medical experts and childcare professionals. In addition, the information we have at our disposal is constantly being updated and in certain instances contradicts previous assertions. Our plan will be updated as new information and best practices are made available. Our search for a viable plan was predicated on four important and interconnected considerations: the physical health and safety of our students, the mental health of our students, the academic progress of our students, and the social development of our students. We also acknowledge that there are two main components in any plan. How will the education instruction be conducted, and how can we make our students feel safe in the school setting? Having said this, what will September look like at Toronto Prep School? I'd like to direct you to the last page of the report I sent all of you entitled Return to School Plan Highlights. The selection of our particular plan was based on best practices garnered from our sister schools in Europe, child psychologists, the scientific and education communities, and first and foremost, discussions with multiple epidemiologists and infectious disease experts. It also took into consideration your wishes as parents and the wishes of staff. For example, the parent survey had exactly 500 responses, with 314 or 62.8% wanting full in-person, in-school instruction in a Quadmaster format. A remaining 31.6% were split between a Quadmaster program, either fully online or a morning-afternoon split. The remaining 15.6% wanted a full complete of 4 courses online for the entire semester. We selected an option which, given the optional nature of in-person in-school attendance, speaks to the wishes of 84.4% of our respondents. I'd like to briefly speak to each highlighted point of our selected plan and then open it up to answering questions that have been directed to the moderator. Feel free to contact myself or Fouli via email if you have additional queries. Toronto Prep School will reopen in September for in-person, in-school instruction and for synchronous online at-home learning for the students that choose to remain home. Students have the option on a daily basis or even on a period-by-period basis to select either to be instructed in person in school or synchronously online. Attendance will be in person in school, in person online, or absent. Instruction will follow modified schedule, which will incorporate a Quadmester system rather than the traditional semester system. This is to mitigate the amount of exposures and movement within the school. Our modified schedule for all grades, grades 7 to 12, will have morning extra help for period 1 only, between 9 and 9:55. Period 1 will be between 10 and 12:30. Lunch will be 12:30 to 1:15. Period 2 will be 1:15 to 3:45. After school extra help with teachers for period 2 only will be between 3:45 and 4:30. And after school extra help for resource between 4:30 and 6, online only. Now, resource extra help will also be available between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. for students that have study hall periods on Monday through Thursday, and from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Fridays. All resource extra help will be conducted online via Zoom. It's also imperative that all students and staff complete a daily COVID self-assessment prior to leaving home. If they have any of the acknowledged symptoms on our checklist, they are to remain home and attend classes synchronously online. This is to protect the greater community and themselves. All students and staff are required to download the COVID Alert app. Most individuals, in fact, there's about 11% in Canada that do not have phones which allow the app to be downloaded. You can speak to us if that is the case. And once again, that is contact tracing is very, very important. And what we want to be able to do is, if there is an outbreak, to be able to immediately have all individuals that might have been impacted by someone who tested positive to be informed immediately. All staff and students are to wear a mask at all times indoors. All students and staff will be encouraged to practice proper hygiene throughout the day. Every classroom will have a no-touch hand sanitizer, and although we have 2.5-hour periods, we will have natural breaks in them. Some of those breaks will entail us actually going outside and allowing our students to take their masks off. At the same time, during every break, during lunch, coming into a classroom, leaving a classroom, you will be asked to sanitize your hands. All students and staff will be encouraged to practice safe physical distancing protocols throughout the day. If people do not wear masks, medical community has stated that you're looking at a 2-meter zone. If you wear a mask, that goes down to 1 meter. We are looking at also getting protective shields for our desks, for our students, because students will be eating lunch in their period 1 classroom. They'll be taking their masks off, and we want to have protection within that type of environment at lunchtime. All sports teams, TDCAA, OFSA, and SSAF have canceled or postponed their seasons for now. All synchronous instruction will be conducted via the Zoom platform and supplemented by Google Classroom and other online applications. Whatever is happening in the classroom is going to be synchronously streamed to people, to students at home. Teachers will be able to see them, share their screens with the students at home, and we will be using Zoom with the students in class and the students at home to conduct class discussions, and also to create Zoom breakout rooms where students can collaborate during their classrooms. Our physical education classes will no longer be using Good Life. They no longer facilitate our needs. We are in the process of finalizing plans to create our own in-house fitness center along with certain other classrooms. We hope to have this in line for the second quadmester of the first semester. Another item that we want to look at is we want everyone to be aware of course add and drop protocols and the revised full disclosure dates, especially for the 11s and 12s if they were to drop a course. Just as we were ready and able to provide meaningful instruction and engagement for all our students right after March, we're fully committed to providing meaningful instruction, superior engagement, and the requisite supports to ensure the success of our students during this unique time. So school will open. At the same time, I would be remiss if I did not provide you with my personal take on this. No matter which plan we've selected, the social experience of walking through the hallways, of sitting in the student lounge with your friends, of eating lunch with your classmates, of joking before and after school with your friends in a relaxed setting is not going to occur at the traditional levels, whether we're in school in person or in school virtually online. The experience will be different, but I can assure you that we will do our utmost to engage, challenge, and provide a superior education to all our students. Most of us have not seen a pandemic in our lifetimes. We really do not know what to expect. For this reason, I urge caution. If we know there's a danger around the corner, we don't rush our entire family around the corner all at the same time. We send one individual and learn from their experience. This is how I believe we should approach school reopening. There's a danger that none of us can really see. So let us take it slow and learn from the people that ventured out before us. We know that there's no perfect way, but let us see what works incrementally. Each and every one of you has that choice with the plan we've implemented. Personally, I would keep my child at home at least the first 1 or 2 weeks and see how it plays out. Phasing your child's participation to in-person, in-school participation is your choice to make. And we as a school have made that choice available to you. We will continue providing you with updates on the minutiae of our plan. I turn it over to the moderator.
Dad, thank you. So we've had a number of wonderful questions come in. I hope everyone can hear me because I still see my dad's face on my computer. So Jason, message me if you can't hear me. But it's been overwhelming, the concern we've gotten from all of our parents. 50 amazing questions. So we'll try to sift through each one. We'll try to, well, I guess my dad did touch upon most of the questions, and the back to school plan almost touches on everything. But Dad, some things, I guess, according to some parents, are a little bit unclear. So can you just speak to, can students come in person, not in person? Do they have to stay a week, leave a week? Give us some detail about that.
As I stated, that students have the option on a daily basis or even on a period by period basis to either be instructed in person in school or online synchronously, which basically says some parents will say, well, some of the schools are doing a 1 day on, 1 day off, or 3 days on, 2 days off. Why don't we have that option? You do. You have every right, if you feel that you want to keep your child at home so they can be online synchronously with their class for a day, you can. If a child wants to go, because you're going to be eating lunch with your, the cohort that you're in with period 1, you're not going to be able to go out for lunch. Uber Eats is not going to be an option. There aren't going to be visitors, coming into the school delivering food. So at that point in time, if a child decides, you know what, I want my period 1 class to be online, and then I've got to, quickly get my butt to school for my period 2, and I'm going to be in school, that's fine. The only options you do not have is to start in period 1, leave for lunch, and then decide to return for period 2. All of this has been done to mitigate the amount of contacts that are being made. For our 7s and 8s, we are going to be keeping them, and because we're only limiting the Quadmaster to 2 courses, we're able to keep the 7s and 8s for the most part in the same cohort that they have. So they will remain in their class, and their period 2 teacher will move into that class. With the high school students, because there are more electives, we are maxing out at 2 cohorts, which means that you will have 1 group of students for your period 1, and then you're going to have a second group of students for your period 2. What we cannot basically control is if we allowed our students to go out for lunch, then all the cohorts become intermixed, and then all of a sudden contact tracing and the spread, if one person tested positive, we don't have control over that. So the whole idea here is that as a parent, as a student, you know that you have the option. And I know that the public system has stated that if you decide to start online after a week, if you want to go back to school, you do not have that option. That is not the case with us. So, and it also allows us to transition. If there is a second surge, a second wave, and they are saying that it's going to coincide with flu season, then that gives our students the option to stay at home, and that is the choice of each and every family to do.
Okay, great, Dad. Can you now speak to the type of PPE we're going to have in place?
Well, masks are going to be mandatory for everyone. As I said, hand washing stations in every single class. Teachers will also be wearing face shields. It will be their option. Masks are mandatory. We have designed the school in a way where there are one-directional hallways. There are loops that you're going to follow. There will be arrows on the ground that you're going to be following. We are going to be creating designated breaks for each class, which almost will basically coincide with, hey, this class now has a bathroom break. Now, obviously, if you have to go, you have to go, and we're not going to stop you. But that's where the logistics, and that's why the COVID alert app is required, because you really cannot then keep tabs on who might be in the bathroom with someone else. Although we will have lines and allow probably 2 people in at a time, it's something that we really can't sort of look at. Other is we are planning on having dividers between the desks that extend beyond that. And at the same time, depending on what in-person, in-school attendance is going to be, we might be looking at 50% attendance, which means then every student has their own double desk. And if we have 16, the max students that we have, then the dividers basically come into play. We are also working with the building in the HVAC system. We're also looking at classroom HEPA filters for each class.
Okay, great, Dad. Now, to all the parents out there writing in, thank you so much for your questions in real time. We have about 30. A lot of them are kind of yes or no, so we'll leave those to the end. We'll do a little rapid fire at the end. Dad, let's get to some in-school stuff, not exactly the PPE. Can you talk about how assessments will be handled?
Assessments are going to all be open book variety. So tests, our final exams, they will be open book because for students both in class and at home. The questions obviously will be different. There will be sort of more critical thinking questions, but there will also be more discussion-based observational assessments, class discussions, whether they're in breakout rooms, whether they're full class discussions. There will be assessments done in variety classes that are going to just be written assessments handed in. There will be less tests simply because of the nature of the Quadmaster. But again, the Quadmaster limits the amount of exposure to our students. If we were to go to a traditional 4 courses in school, the amount of movements that would be occurring, and some of you saw hallway pictures in Georgia where there were a whole bunch of kids not wearing masks in the hallway. We don't want that at all. We want to basically safeguard our students as much as possible. And that is first and foremost, the physical safety and health of our students and our staff and our families, because if anything happens, students are going to bring things home. And there are a number of our families that are intergenerational families. You know, they're the kids, the parents, the grandparents in that bubble. So it's very important to be cognizant of the fact that what we're trying to implement is something that is going to safeguard our wider school community.
So Dad, there's a lot of questions here about details surrounding extra help. Can you just speak to those, please? How will extra help work?
What we've said, extra help really looks at three types of extra help. You arrive at school, you'll be going immediately to your period 1 class. At that point in time, from 9 to 9:55 or whatever time you arrive, before that, you can now get extra help for your period 1 class. After school, you're going to be in your period 2 class, whether it's the same room or a different room, but your period 2 teacher will be with you. Between 3:45 and 4:30, you will have extra help with that teacher in that class. Then you also will have access to resources. So if you had a spare or you were at home, you can access extra help between 4:30 and 6 o'clock online. So all extra help is online. And at the same time, as most of you did and our teachers did, you would send teachers questions that you had online, and our teachers would respond to you, you know, as soon as they could. So that is still in force.
Dad, we have a question that states, will students be allowed to go off-site for a period? Meaning, can they go to a coffee house to do their online period, or do they have to do it from home?
No, if they go to an online coffee house, for example, and we basically would say, okay, well, you're in class. So if they did not have time to get home, that is their choice. We can't control where they're online if they decide to be online, but their attendance would reflect that they are online.
There is a good question here, Dad, from a parent that asks, have teachers agreed to come in?
Yes, they have. We had a general meeting. For example, one of the first questions that I asked the teachers was about the COVID alert app, and all of them said, yeah, we're in. They understand the importance of that app for contact tracing. So as of right now, all of our teachers are going to be coming in. Now, again, you know, in the future, what happens with a positive test, then the idea is that they would be conducting their classrooms, their classes from home synchronously.
Okay, Dad. So we have a couple class-specific questions, and I'll lump them together. I think that's the best way you can answer them. Will there be phys ed classes running? Will we have a theater program? And what will art look like?
Well, we've tried to push phys ed into the second Quadmaster as much as possible. By that time, we're hoping that we have our own fitness center. It'll be about 2,000 square feet at least. And we will be able to conduct it there. Also, as of right now, if there are phys ed classes now, most of those classes would be done outside. In terms of theater arts, drama. Mr. Pascos and the other teachers are very adept at engaging our students and being able to get them up to speed in whatever production they'd be doing. For art class, every student will have their own supply kit. So there will not be sharing of stuff. One of the things that I put in the document was not sharing is caring. I know the Care Bears would hate that, but not sharing is caring, because what we really want is, again, to mitigate individuals touching shared utensils. So what we're looking at is, for maths, they'll all have their math kits that students that elect to stay at home, we will be getting it to them. We are going to have a checklist for art supplies, because before, when this started, it was very difficult for individuals to walk into a store and purchase art supplies. That is no longer the case. So for students who elect to stay at home, we're going to be giving them a checklist of what art supplies they would need, and they can go out and then purchase those items.
So, Dad, we know that each class will be streamed.
Oh, sorry. By the way, just to give you a quick, if we get the fitness center going, a part of that expansion also involves a theater for the school. 2 media labs and a music recording studio, but that's in the mix right now. Hopefully it is all up and running for the second semester.
Wonderful. So, Dad, we know that we are streaming everything for students who wish to stay home. Will we be recording classes that can be viewed later?
No, we're not going to be recording the classes, but anything that is shared, for example, if we basically are putting up word problems, if we're putting up videos, all of those will be shared through Edsby and Google Classroom, but we will not be recording classes, so students that don't show up for them, that miss them, will be privy to them. And what we'll basically do is get a student that misses a class, we'll find out the reasons and get them caught up the way we usually do.
Great. So just so the parents out there and the families and the teachers listening, we are trying to get to as many questions as possible. We have 58 in real time, and we had over 70 emailed beforehand. So we're slowly getting to you. If we don't get to your question, please, you can email us after. We're trying to get through them all. Dad, I'm just going to reread this question. Can you talk about opportunities for students to connect socially if they're at home online?
What we're going to be doing is, we had our mindfulness classes. They were a hit with many students and staff. They will be continued due to Ms. Ravenhill. She did an excellent job. And what we're also trying to do is maintain as many of the clubs as possible. So one thing that we are looking into doing is during lunch, which will be 45 minutes, although you will not be able to sort of go to another classroom to eat with someone else, that does not stop us from having clubs during lunch through Zoom. So we'll be able to do that. And also many of our clubs will be changed over to Zoom. Whether it's before school, at lunch, after school, those are things that we are looking into setting up.
Okay, great. So back to some hard-hitting questions here, Dad. If the school, this is from a grade 8 parent, if the school opens with in-person learning, what will the trigger be to move back to virtual learning only? Example, a certain number of cases at the school, a certain number of cases in the community, a % of positive test rate in Toronto, rate of increase in Toronto, etc.
We're going to be sort of mandated by Toronto Public Health. That's what we're looking at. And remember that as an individual family, if, for example, you feel that whatever the threshold that Toronto Public Health has, if your threshold is, let's say, you're saying, no, that's too many cases before they shut down a school. Remember, we have implemented a program where you have choice. If there is one kid that tests positive, you can elect to keep your child at home and be schooled that way. So we're not going to sit there and say, oh, we've got one case, the school is closed necessarily. We are going to abide by what Toronto Public Health does, but remember, each family has their own level of comfort that they can basically use.
Okay, Dad, how will teachers simultaneously teach the students in class while continuing to engage students at home? And how are we going to keep students at home engaged with students in class?
This is something that we're working on right now in sort of getting the details all done. One of the things that happens in a class, if a teacher is moving around, usually if they're away from their computer, there's muffling of what they're saying. So we're looking at supplying each teacher with a Bluetooth microphone. So that means that students in class or at home will be able to clearly hear what they are saying. We're also looking at getting possibly a second device whereby we might be able to project in class on screen the students at home, and still have a teacher using another device share their screen. Also, the ability to use Zoom, even with the students in the class, to create breakout rooms that they can work with students who are at home. So we can have group work that meshes students that are at school with students that are at home same time. But we're really looking at getting a very clear idea of how we're able to better stream our in-class instruction to our students at home. That's something that we're still working on.
Great. Let's change tack here. We're going to get Fouli, my mom, who's next to me, to jump in. Here's your question, Mom. Has there been any consultation with the building's property managers regarding improvements to the ventilation system? And I'll quote here what our parent wrote in. There seems to be a lot in the news about ventilation in buildings as another layer to look at in terms of helping to mitigate the spread of COVID. I was curious to know if the windows open in the classrooms to add fresh air. If not, has there been any discussions about ways to improve air quality in the school?
Yes, thank you, Pete. I've been talking to the management people, TAF Forward, since March. We've been talking about how we can make the building a safer place for everybody, for all their tenants. We've talked to other tenants in the building who are just as concerned, because we're the largest tenant in the building and we have the most people who will be coming in and out of the building, and as such, a greater responsibility to our own people and to the people around us. So I will keep in contact with them. We've talked about maybe doing one-way stairwells. We've talked about, they've already put in some hand sanitizers at the elevator stations and in some hallways and in the bathrooms. We're also going to be talking, I'm going to ask them to send me in writing what kind of filtration system they already have in the building, what kind of HVAC is being used. And so we can know specifically that we can share with the parents then to let them know what's happening. Steve mentioned earlier, they're also looking for, we're going to check into the HEPA filters and see the validity of them and how much they would be able to help. Unfortunately, we can't open windows in the building, and that's not going to change, but we will try to get the kids outdoors to get some fresh air. I think our class sizes are so small initially that if 50 to 60% of our students come to the school, our classes will even be smaller, which means less people in the building, which also will contribute to less problems with maybe the ventilation. So as soon as we hear something from the building, I will get it in writing and we will share it with the rest of our clients.
Okay, I'll pop back in here very casually. Thanks, Mom. Okay, Dad, building on air filtration kind of, we have a question here that states, obviously masks will be removed when eating, and children will be in the same cohort and same room as their first period cohort when they're eating. Will children be 2 meters apart during this? How are we going to handle that?
Well, that's where the physical dividers come into play. So we're looking at plexiglass or acrylic shields that would divide a desk in half. That would extend beyond. So if a student eating lunch would take off their mask to eat lunch, that there would be another added layer, another barrier there in case they coughed or they sneezed, you know, to looking at the people next to them. Again, it's also a matter of moving the chairs around, creating where you wouldn't have to, you know, at lunch face the board, so we can space chairs out differently during lunch than if it were a typical classroom setting.
Great, thanks, Dad. I'm going to go back to Mom now with another question. Have there been additional class options added in case kids want to make changes to their existing schedules? How do we go about it?
Well, we have to, in this case, protect the cohort. As Steve said earlier, we don't want a lot of kids switching over from class to class. So class, if anybody wants to drop a class, they can do so after school starts. But if they want to switch a class, all class switching or any kind of changes to schedules have to be done before September the 8th, before kids actually go to class or show up to class at the school. And of course, if there is room in those different classes. So what we ask the parents is to reach out to myself, to Maria, to Mr. Fleming about any changes they want to make, and we will try to come through with those changes. The only other difference would be if the child is at home and doing classes only online and will not be in school, then there's some leeway there where we can make the change, but we are sticking to our 16 maximum, where we can make the change because they're not physically entering that cohort. So the other kids are protected. So again, as you can see, we're always looking to protect our students as far as the physical activity is concerned and being not to be exposed to any new cohort. We want to keep it as pure as we can. So everything will have to be done before before September the 8th.
Yeah, and actually to add on to that, Mom, I just got a message from Maria. September 4th, I think, will be the deadline. August 24th to September 4th is kind of that window to change your schedule, everybody. Okay, we'll stick with Mom here, Dad, give you a little break. How often will the school be professionally cleaned?
We are hiring more cleaners. The building has their own cleaners, and they've told me that they're going to hire more people as well, and they'll be more stringent in their cleaning. We have one cleaning person during the day. We're hiring a second one. We want one for each floor. What'll happen is we're hoping that they can rotate through the common areas and also the bathroom. So we're hoping we can get those cleaned every hour on the hour as the day progresses.
Okay, let's stick with Mom again, Dad. Let's give you another breather. As there are no designated days for students as a parent, is there a way to know how many students will be in a particular class for the day? For example, I may be comfortable sending my child with less than 50% students.
That teachers, I guess, could share some of that information. It just becomes very, very convoluted. We want the teachers really focus on the kids in the class and the work to be done, rather than keeping track of how many kids are in the class at that time. It could change from day to day. A teacher might say, oh, you know, today I had 4 kids in the class, but tomorrow they might have 8. So I don't want the parents to really depend on that. They've got to feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable that your child will be safe when they come to the school with all the precautions we've put in place, then by all means do so, send your child to the school. If you are nervous in any way, shape, or form, or you're not sure, then keep your child at home. That's why we're doing the streaming of the classes, to give the parents that option. As parents ourselves, Steve and I, this is our number one concern, the safety of your child, and secondly, how we can get the curriculum to your child uninterrupted and as efficiently and as effectively as possible.
Thanks, Mom. Dad, we'll come back to you. What will your policy be with respect to travel? For example, what happens if a parent returns from a business trip? Will the child be asked to stay home and learn remotely for 14 days?
Well, public health has stated that the person that traveled has to quarantine, but unless they test positive, then individuals in their bubble may in fact go out. But that's why what we're doing is we'll have, through the COVID Alert app, the ability to contact trace if it turns for the worst. But right now, we do not really have the ability to tell a student that your parent traveled somewhere, they've come back, they're fine, but you have to stay at home for 14 days. That is, we do not have the right as of right now to make that statement.
Okay, sticking with Dad here. Do you have a plan in place for continuity if a teacher gets sick and can't teach?
Well, so 2 levels. One is I'll address the thing that, for example, there might be an outbreak and a classroom has to be quarantined and the teacher gets quarantined and they have to be at home, then they can actually teach from home. If, on the other hand, that teacher is too sick to teach, then we have other teachers that we've hired, additional teachers actually, that can actually step in to a variety of classes. So we do have support teachers that can step into and take over from teachers that are too sick to even teach online.
Okay, we'll go back to Mom here. Mom, when will new students, and I'm sure there's a lot of new parents out there who actually haven't even seen the school, and just a little FYI, we shot a video today introducing everybody to the school, so you hear this voice a lot. When will new students receive their laptops, and when will they be oriented in the school?
Right. So we have ordered the laptops. We're waiting for Apple to deliver them. Once we receive them, the new parents will be contacted by Jessica Wood or Damian Iverson, who will set up an appointment for the new parent or child to come to the school to take and receive the MacBook Pro that we've ordered. We can't do tours at this time. Well, we don't, again, want to have people walking through the school. It's just not safe enough to do so right now. So we are going to use a video that we did take and film today. We will post it on our website, and we can send it to the parents too if they request it. And then we will help the kids. We will have staff on the first day of school help the kids come in and help show them where their first period class is. We are going to try to do something online for the kids, even our existing students and new kids coming in, so we can mix and match. We're working on that right now with some of the teachers in order to do something virtually, so at least parents and kids can meet each other, even if it's virtually, in order to gain some kind of knowledge about the school and, you know, to give them a really warm welcome to the school so they won't be nervous when they come in.
Building on that first day, Mom, when will the revised schedules go out?
We're hoping to get them out by the end of next week. Everybody should get a new schedule, which will be the Quadmaster, which will tell you what courses you're taking between September and mid-November, and what courses you'll be taking from mid-November to towards the end of January. They'll be set up as Quadmesters, so you'll get that. If you get your schedule and you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or to Ian and Mr. Fleming, and we will look into it for you.
Again, rapid fire back to my mother. Can parents request that a child be included with another in a class cohort?
Again, it would have to be done before school actually starts. It would have to be done only if there's room in that classroom. Most of the kids who pick their schedules already, you know, talked to their friends and they came in and did all their class choices together. So I believe most of them will be together who are friends. If there's something that needs to be done, again, you can reach out to me. We'll see what we can do for you.
Dad, will the second semester also be Quadmastered?
As of right now, there is no definitive plan. This is going to allow us, I mean, for all we know, this could, as someone south of the border, who I don't believe said, it could all go away. Well, if it does, we can go back to a normal, traditional 4 courses in school every single day. But we're going to revisit that, and it's up to the scientific community, the medical experts, in terms of what is going to happen. But we have the ability to pivot to either go completely in school with the traditional 4 courses. We could continue the Quadmaster that we have It really depends on what happens in the next 4.5 months.
Okay, great, Dad. And also, we have some good news that I think you'll like. On the COVID questionnaire, it states, and we quote, one of our parents wrote in, you should not enter if you or someone you're in close contact with traveled outside of Canada in the past 14 days. Therefore, if a student or someone in their bubble traveled outside the country, they will not be allowed to come. I think that's good news for you. You'll sign off on that.
That's right.
Another question for you, Dad. Now we're getting down to brass tacks, everybody. We have 13 minutes left. We don't want to keep anybody any longer, so we might do a little rapid fire. If the TDSB is required to shut down, what will TPS's response be?
Well, if the TDSB is required to shut down, that would be a mandate from the Ministry of Education, and we would follow the mandate from the Ministry of Education. We would err on the side of caution and follow what the medical experts have told the Ministry of Education.
Wonderful. Now, parents who've written in more medical questions, there's some here that I don't think we are competent to answer. For instance, is taking public transit safe? I'm not even going to throw it to my dad because I don't think we're the right people, Dad, to answer that question. So maybe consult with the doctor. One second here, Dad. Can you stay at school if you have a spare?
No. No, you cannot, because we are not going to have students in any common areas. The common areas will basically be shut down. So you would be requested to go, just the same if, for example, you had a period 1 study hall and your period 2 started after lunch. You could not come into the school before the beginning of period 2.
Great. Okay, we have a wonderful idea written in by one of our parents. I'm going to throw this to Mom. Can you offer some type of ambassadorship program where existing TPS students are partnering with brand new students to get them situated virtually?
Absolutely, we can do that. I know we have quite a few
idea.
students. Wonderful idea. We have quite a few students, the same students that volunteer to come to our open houses to do tours for the parents and the new kids coming in. I got to say, one of the things I'm so proud of is sometimes I'll get parents coming in pre-COVID where they have a child with them, and I might pick up the phone and buzz a classroom and say, could you send me somebody to give a tour for a young person who's just visiting the school? And I'll have 7 kids come from the class because they all want to do it and they want to give a tour. We have quite a few students who are happy to do that. And yes, I think it's a wonderful idea. And at least virtually, we'll have a welcome wagon for them. Absolutely.
Okay, Dad, some hard-hitting questions now as well. And it's funny that we've spoken about most of these questions together. So it's interesting when I ask the question, I know the answer that's coming. But Dad, for everybody else out there, can you explain why grades 7 and 8 are being Quadmesters as well as they can easily be cohorted all day? For kids with learning difficulties, how will you address the challenge of 2.5 hours in class, issues with attention and retention, particularly with math and English?
Well, it really comes down to the ability of our teachers that I have full confidence in to create an engaging classroom on a daily basis. And the whole idea is 2.5 hours are not 2.5 hours completely. There are breaks in there. There are activities. More homework will probably be done with a greater emphasis on teachers being able to instruct individually students, whether they are at home or in class. And at the same time, it's funny because we're on a rotating basis for our grade 7s and 8s, and there are still some middle schools that do not rotate. In other words, a child sits in the same classroom for the entire day. While at least with us, at least teachers will be moving around. But the whole idea is, it really comes down to, is that ideal? No, it's not. But again, it is with respect to our ability to mitigate and speak to the health of our students. I mean, that is the number one priority. And right now, everyone has to make adjustments to that. So that's all we can do right now, other than to have confidence in our teachers being able to engage our students for the full period.
in this regard, we're getting a lot of questions, actually just a flurry about attendance. So are students to write in and say we're attending virtually or we're attending in person, or we're asking how attendance will be done and how that will be communicated with parents.
Fouli, do you want to do that or shall I?
Well, attendance will be taken every period, which in this case is 2. And so what we've done is we've broken it up to being present in school and being present virtually. And this is where we need the help with the parents as well. So when we take attendance, we will know if the child is online or if the child is there in person. If the child is online, then it is up to the parents and the child to make sure that they are there for the full period, for the full time that lesson is being taught. It'll be very difficult for us to make sure that that child is there constantly and paying attention and not being distracted. So we are asking the parents to be vigilant about this, as well as the kids. We will contact the parents if that child is not in class and not online, absolutely. We also will be able to give late slips out for kids who get on late online or whether they show up late to the school as well.
Okay, some kind of OneLine questions here. Mom, this can come to you too. What about heating up lunch in a microwave?
There are no heating up lunches. There's no access to the lunchroom. When you bring in lunch, please make sure it's something the kids could open up and eat at the time.
There's also no access to lockers.
That's right.
At all. So you would be, because you only have 2 classes, whatever books you have for that day, you're taking with you for the entire day.
Dad, here we go. Will the school be communicating to the full parent body if and when a student or teacher tests positive for COVID?
As soon as we get confirmation for public health, we will not name the student. But again, if you have, as we've requested everyone to have, the COVID alert, the individual that tests positive will be given a number that they put into their phone, and without identifying who they are, that will be transmitted out to any of their contacts that they had with. Now, if it were someone if it were a student and it was in a classroom and they tested positive, then public health would inform us, and then we would inform everyone in that class that everyone in that class, including the teacher, is quarantined. And if it were the teacher that would be quarantined, because they're quarantined, that means that if they're able to, they would be teaching not only that class online, but also their other class online. Right?
Now,
they would have actually be removed from the school at that point.
Okay, Dad, what's preventing a child to leave after period 1, grab lunch, and then come back to school instead of going home for period 2?
Because if they are not having lunch in their period 1 class, they're done for the remainder of that day. They cannot return. So teachers are going to make certain of which students are in that classroom for the lunch period, because they will remain in that class. So if a student elects to leave, they cannot return.
Dad, with the tracking app, we're getting some questions about what if some kids don't have phones? Then what do we do? I think it can go on their computer, to be honest, as well. But
right now, the app is on mobiles because it's based on where you are with your phone. So right now, as far as I know, I do not think that you can get it on your computer and you'd have to carry your computer around. It is phone-based. At that point in time, then we would have to sit down with the parent and figure out what to do, because it truly is an integral part and an imperative part in contact tracing. And in fact, this might be then one of the reasons why if a child does not have a phone, to actually provide them with a phone. It's a very serious health concern, and I think that is something that becomes a major impediment to the health of not just that child, but of others also.
And for all the students listening right now, maybe now is the time to get your parents to get you the new iPhone because Mr. T said so. 1 second here. Mom, this will go to you. How will the Quadmester affect the grade 12s applying to universities or colleges?
Well, we're going to do the same great job we've always done. Mr. Fleming, Maria is going to be available. We are working closely with the universities, with the application center. We're going to move ahead as we always do, keeping in mind the best interests of our students, making all the applications. Any changes that need to be made, we will make those parents and those students aware of those changes. We'll work closely with the ministry. And so it's just pushing forward and doing the best that we can.
Also, if I may add to that, the TDSB is going to a Quadmaster system, a hybrid version. So universities and the University Application Center is cognizant that the largest school board in the country is going to a Quadmaster. So they are going to make the requisite adjustments for grade 12s.
Okay, going back to Mom, here's a question. Has there been thought put into balancing the academic load of each Quadmester? For instance, not having math and science in the same Quadmester, and this person understands everything is all relative.
It is relative. There's some kids who can handle something like that. Other kids, it might be more difficult. What we did was tried to keep it very simple. So we went periods 1 and period 2 for the first Quadmaster, AM, PM, and then periods 3 and periods 4 for the second, being AM and PM too. Very simple. It's what the kids had and what they were going to take in the first semester if everything, quote unquote, was back to normal. Now, like I said, there's some exceptions sometimes. So based on, again, how many kids are in a class and what availability there is, if there is a child who feels that this is too much for them to handle, please send me an email and we'll see what we can do.
Great. Now I'm seeing we have 2 minutes left and there's a bunch of questions about the COVID app. So I can suggest to everybody, type in COVID app, COVID alert Canada app, something like that on Google, go to it and read about it. It outlines how it's used, what you have to do. And so we can ask a couple more TPS questions.
Just quickly, in the document that I sent in the return to school plan, there is one page that at the bottom, it actually gives you the direct link to the COVID-19 Alert app. So you can hit it at the bottom, it'll open up the link and directly send you to it.
Okay, Dad, one last question here. Will you be taking children's temperatures on the way to school each morning? Will they have to have their temperatures taken at TPS?
No, we will not be doing that. We're going to be providing parents with a checklist. I put a semblance of it in this plan that I sent everyone. And again, it's a draft. There are going to be some changes to it, minor ones, but we are going to be providing each family with a checklist that we would like, and our staff, that you must conduct on a daily basis before you send your child off to school. And the reason that we want it done at home, we don't want students going on, for example, the TTC and taking X amount of time to get to school. They arrive at school and we go, oh, sorry, you're sitting at 38.4 degrees Celsius, go home. So the whole idea is we want that to be done at home, and each parent will have the checklist and each staff member will have the checklist, and you will do that every morning as part of this new routine of life that we have in the COVID era.
Thanks, Dad. So I see now it hit 8 o'clock. We'd like to thank everybody for contributing. I mean, right now we have over 180 questions in total, and I know not all of them got answered. So please email us or call the school. We will get to all of them. If there's any reservations about anything, on behalf of TPS staff and admin, I'd like to say thank you so much. Hopefully this cleared something up. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.